very good morning to you, dear listener, and welcome to Perspectives, a current affairs discussion. We shall discuss Benue at 49, the journey so far and the way forward. Benue State was created on the 3rd of February in 1976, and today marks exactly 49 years since the creation of the state. The state, which was created by the then regime of General Murtala Mohammed from the old Benue Plateau, is said to derive its name from the 49 years. How has the state fared in terms of development? What have been the challenges and the success stories that we can point to? And what are the prospects ahead of this dear state of ours? That is why this morning on shall beam the spotlight on Benue at 49, the journey so far and the way forward. And I have been joined here in the studio by two discussants who will offer insights on this very important subject matter. First is a power state. He is a one-time permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Health and a one-time registrar of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, a former provost of the College of Health Sciences at the Benue State University, an elder statesman, a renowned surgeon and medical scholar. Professor Shima Gyoh, OFR, is our guest on Perspectives this morning. Good to have you join us on the program, sir.
Thank you very much. Just a little correction. I was not registrar of the Medical Council. I was the chairman of the Medical Council.
All right. Thank you so much for that correction, sir. And we also have joining us on this program a seasoned public administrator, Nongu. He is no other person but Dr. Sabastian Agbinda, currently a lecturer in the Department of Political Science at the Benue State University, Makurdi. Welcome to Perspectives, Dr. Agbinda.
Thank you. All of them, and because serially at the National Assembly, starting with NABA, it's critical that is acknowledged too. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. And dear listener, if you are just tuning into this program for the first time, kindly be informed that Perspectives is audience participatory. And at 10 o'clock, we allow you the opportunity to phone in to also contribute on what we are discussing. The number through which you can reach us on the program is 0814-335-9292. The number, once again, is 0814-335-9292. Meanwhile, the line dedicated to SMS, which is also available, 912-699-9404. You may also listen to us by logging onto our website on www.iGateRadioTV.com to listen to us and access other content of iGate Radio as well. We're available on Radio Garden and on social media platforms where the program is streaming. You may also download the iGate Radio and TV app from all these platforms to serve you. Kindly join us as we discuss Benue at 49. And we should say happy birthday to Benue, 49th birthday. It is said life begins at 40, and Benue is in its series of 49. So what you recall about the evolution of Benue State from Benue Plateau, as it were.
Thank you. We arrived in Benue State in 1976. At the where commissioners in Benue Plateau State came down as the first commissioner. Expect me being a medically trained person. I was not the first commissioner in Benue State. I was not the first health commissioner in Benue State. The person who came down from Gyoh was the first one, but very soon there were no officers. So the new government took over, completed as officers for the new government. Our executive council met at the provincial establishments training and service matters. We occupied a almost completed building that we could move into those more convenient ones, because sometimes in the temporary offices there were no toilets. We had to use the bush, which was luxuriant in Benue State at that time. Our first governor was a military governor, of course, Governor Abdullahi Shelling. I believe he allowed free discussion in the state. Now, coming to power supply, we were not connected to the national grid. So our power came from a big generator which was switched on at various where nothing to write home about headquarters, and so we started building everything from scratch, which is presently being used, and that was how we began.
All right, Dr. Agbinda, also give us insights into what you may have read or recall about the evolution of Benue from Benue Plateau State, its eventual creation in 1976 as a state.
In 76, in 76, I had just left the HSC, and from what Prof. Elder Statesman has said, he was an active participant. That's how we call it in a very firm ground and I think he has sufficiently spoken on that. Every other thing is giving you the picture of real takeoffs, humble takeoffs. Everything is, there was a clamoring for them to have sat down and planned anything on its takeoff. So everything started from scratch, and I think Prof has sufficiently contradict. That captures the state of things.
February 3, 2025, reenact February 3, 1976. What was the general mood of the state? Murtala Muhammad announced the creation of Benue as a state.
Of course, both the part of agitation government, and there was agitation for a middle belt state. So in the end, this agitation. So at last, we had Benue Plateau State. But still, the people of Benue felt looked. So Benue State was created, and the people were happy. So here we are, field or not, it's a debatable issue.
All right, and that leads me to you, Dr. Agbinda. Talking about the mood, Prof pointed out there were agitations to have the state. So when it came into being, from your experience, what was the mood of the people?
There was excitement. You can almost leave it as a tremendous excitement. You have clamored for something, you get it, you are excited. But it's important to capture the historical perspective in which state creation emerged. One of the items for which the country needs to acknowledge first that the whole idea of state creation truly took off under the umbrella of the United Middle Belt Congress. Prof mentioned that under the auspices of Taka's leadership, there are a couple of items that our people are supposed to say, look, we are the headquarters of this and that across the country. The country doesn't sufficiently acknowledge Benue when it comes. It is important that when you're talking about the excitement, you also have to appropriate the credit and state creation. They prefer that you should have referred to that states were created at strategy of Gawan after the Abure Accords, January, February 1966, for states to be, it was on the back of the Accords, which were in Aburi, that the states were created more and wasn't given to Taka And so you understand that from day one, as early as 1958, immediate post-independence, Taka was in the forefront. He was not given states. He was not given a region at the time. Instead of giving him a region in the north, away from the large north, because he was collaborating UNBC with the action, call it whatever you will. So this is where it started. Very much like the accords around power shift, rotation, and all that. Taka started it. You need, if you do action, will not be there, and all that. This was the whole essence. And when Benue was sought after during when we were in Benue Plateau, states to take care of the affairs of the minorities across the country. So from Gowon's 12-state structure, you now had, which was 6-6, take note of that.
Yes.
6 in the south, 6 in the north, parity, north-south parity. Murtala will constate, so we need to capture, even as we celebrate the excitement that we're talking about, Prof mentioned it earlier, you need to appropriation in the context of inclusivity, of minoritism, of affirmative action. And no other, region, no other ethnic group arrives of power shift, rotation, and all that. Aprako would codify it in 1982. Follows on the back of state creation.
One name featured prominently, Taka. Was the creation of Benue State, for instance, just a product of minority agitation led by Taka single-handedly, or the web?
League is a historian.
Yes.
So he
political scientist too.
A political scientist. So were just responsible members of society and wanting to bring equality. Taka was not exactly alone in the agitation. He was with a group of people who agitated to the regions and then states. And when the states were created, we were pretty united. Benue State was pretty united. I sat with my colleagues, regarded ourselves as a tribal division, or tribal loyalty was not prominent. Of course, everybody realized that you come from a tribe, but when you consider the state as it was fight just for Tiv, neither Idoma nor Igala nor the Igede, we at the Executive Council we were one voice. At the planning of our budget, we were one voice. Of course, tribalism was later to be injected into the whole of Nigeria, particularly emphasized at that time. That is when tribalism broke out. But we were pretty united at that time.
All right. The 6 was even beyond the present territory occupied by Benue. He mentioned the Gala, which is to say that Koji was part of it when Benue was created, right?
Ethnic phenomena, like Prof said. Taka happened to be the leader.
Yeah.
He was representing the minorities, not just in the North rotation and all that, which came on the back of state. It was he was at the head of the new phenomena too. You had Clement Isong working close. Taka wasn't alone. He was speaking for minorities. That's why I mentioned UNBC. UNBC wasn't an ethnic appropriation. It was a countrywide phenomena, north-south minorities, but then it was an initiative from here. And same thing with the accords around power shift and rotation. I want like leaders. That is why you are talking about, because the problems still linger in the Nigerian politics.
All right. One thing you have both breached on is the unity of the state, one voice at that time. But we will discuss that much later when we dive into other issues along the conversation. Now, Prof, from the very beginning, you were part of the formation of government. How was the lead?
Well, we had, as I mentioned earlier, a military governor, and we the state was very honored to have. He had been secretary to the state government. Yeah, right. And in fact, he personally recruited me, having been my teacher in primary school in Boko. He personally recruited me, and the state started. Abdullahi Sheleng was a very nice person. Although it was a military government in various aspects of government, and so he did not interfere. He allowed us to discuss freely, and when there was when the discussions became too hot, people will consult, and at the end, towards the end of military rule, Bayo Lawal, who was the administrator, they changed administrators, meaning that the person who was in the position of governor should now wield less influence. It was not so. Bayo Lawal turned more controlling person, formed decisions at it.
Administered by a military governor, as it were. Was there a foundation for the state to achieve its aspirations, starting with it?
The issue of having a military governor wasn't, it didn't emerge from any democratic process. It was a matter of nomenclature. First, governor, the decision making, because the thing came from up, the post-Murtala era, telling you what to do. So it's difficult to answer the question in the way that you frame.
Nigeria becoming a unitary state. The whole of Nigeria became a unitary state because the most senior army officer, military officer was the head of state, and he appointed the governors of the state. So they were obviously responsible to him, and so the federal government got its power from the military government, in that the big top military leader of the country was the head of state, and he appointed state governors who were colonels and so on. So Nigeria became a unitary government going under the false name of federation, and I think that has lasted right up to the moment. The military must also be complimented for trying for unity. They made sure that they didn't appoint an indigene of the state as governor of the state. They put people from various other places to become governors not in their states. In other words, the people would tend to have more confidence in them, in that he would not be biased for any of the ethnic groups in the state. So that is what they did.
Okay. Anyway, but when you mentioned they didn't appoint persons from that state as military governor, that was at the beginning, at the inception, right?
Yes,
because
correct,
otherwise here
correct.
in Benue we will later have Brigadier General Atompera.
Yes, later, much later.
Okay.
First time they were diverting from what you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
The Atompera era, which was in the Buhari military administration, was the first time you had an indigene emerging as, even then, like Prof said earlier, unitarism had taken over. The agenda setting was mostly from up there. Whatever, no matter how much an administrator or governor like Atompera tried to consult, he was always vetoed by the sitting head of state. Under the circumstances, military head of state. So unitarism had taken over. The military as an institution runs unitary systems. The instructions come and you have to implement them at the bottom. So when they took over, they ran the country in the image of military philosophies, military hierarchy. And so it's the military governor of the state, whether an indigene or not, took instructions, agendas were set from there. If you wanted to build your IBB square, as you call it today, in Benue State, and the state agreed with you, and you took it to Babangida, and he said no, that was it. So it was, I'm happy he captured it in that context. Unitarianism had taken over the constitution, or all the constitutions of Nigeria that you have now began to operate in the image of military philosophy of Unitarianism. Power comes from up, down, and that sets us apart from all federal systems across the world. You have a so-called, you say Federal Republic of Nigeria, but you are running a unitary system.
Absolutely.
When, what's his name, Ironsi promulgated a unitary constitution, called it Unitary Constitution in Decree number 34, part of the state police. You don't have local government or county police. All federal systems have, security, architecture systems run in that structure. You don't have it in Nigeria, and that is why you can have your header farmer crisis. If you had a federal system running federated security systems, local government, police, state government, state police, and all that, there's no way you can have a group armed to the teeth like you have the Fulanis, marauding everybody. You can't do that in Australia. It runs a federal system. In the US, because you have that structure of federated state police. And state police, local government police.
Yes.
In the US, they even go the whole hog. You have a very highly liberalized gun ownership system that allows individuals to have assault weapons in some states.
All right.
So you can have, it's important that this issue is brushed on. I'm happy he brought it. So we need to understand that we are not running, in the strict sense, a federal constitution in Nigeria. We're running a unitary constitution, and it is traced back to the era that Prof just mentioned.
Okay, now, Professor Gyoh, let's look at the achievements of the military governors, administrators, up to the point that we had a civilian governor elected for the state. What would you say was the foundation the military era laid for the development of the state?
Well, as I said, I mentioned that this military government had started laying the foundation. First of all, in Benue State, they gave contract for the secretariat. It happened that the chief architect was my friend, was a German living in Kaduna, and anytime he came to Benue, he actually put up with me in my house. So they laid the foundation for civilian rule through giving a contract for construction of the secretariat. Because I was in this particular government, I knew that several issues were discussed, and the implementation was started, but it didn't go very far. And unlike what happens now, when Governor Aperiku came, he, in fact, implemented some of the things that we began planning, and he quite properly has been praised for laying that foundation. It's very difficult when you come into a virgin area, and you've got to start the question of housing, industries, and even a hospital, which was particularly my responsibility. We started planning the federal presence in the state in the way of building a hospital of teaching standard, because we didn't have a university at that time. We started a newspaper because previously our news came through the standard newspaper, which was printed in Jos. We started the Voice newspaper, and we hand over to civilians.
Okay, Dr. Agbinda, is there something you would like to add to this from your point of view as a political scientist, the foundation on the efforts of the military up to the civilian?
Prof made an extremely critical point there.
Yes.
Says the military started at that time, and when Aparaku came, he continued.
By this time it was in 1979, right?
He said it casually. It is extremely critical. He continued. You have to take it back if you want to domesticate it within the family context. Your father starts something. When you come, you continue. You assume appropriately that what your father did in whatever stage he took it as foundational. So you continue from there. I think Prof is trying to allude to the fact that continuity has not been a persistent decimal in the context of succession management in the state. And I think that is critical for development. So that is what I needed to add to. It's extremely critical. When Adasu came, Adasu is one of the only governors who didn't quarrel with his civilian or military successor. He took over from Maka. He continued with everything that Maka started.
Fidelis
Maka. He even gave him the Maka library and the wife center in the high level, in acknowledgement of the fact that he was not going to quarrel with his immediate successor. He also said it was an offshoot of the Aparaku government. So every project that Aparaku started, rural electrification, your Taraku mill, rural water supply, all of them, he understood that he had the burden to follow through down to the idea of minoritism, Taka Foundation. He understood that he didn't need to fight with his political father, Taka and Aparaku. You have that problem today. I think Prof didn't say capture it in that quarrelsome type of transitions that we have had, where a governor comes and sees no model in the past, but thinks he's only the new model. So when he leaves, nobody wants to take over from what's it. So you have several uncompleted projects in the state, and that is not developmental.
I think, as you quite rightly said, it has become a big problem for development in the state. That every new governor abandons what his predecessor did, and even if he is going to do it, he will start it afresh. And condemn any step taken by his predecessor, and he'll do exactly the same thing, but under a new name as his own initiative. And that has really depressed
graveyard of projects.
Yes.
Anyway, it's getting more interesting. Dear listener, if you are just tuning in, you are listening to Perspectives on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makurdi. Today, Benue Idea State turns 49. It's 49 years since the creation of the state on February 3, 1976, and we're reflecting on the journey so far and projecting the way forward for the state. Leading us on the conversation here in the studio is an elder statesman who has served the state with distinction in various capacities, Professor Shima Gyoh OFR, and of course a seasoned administrator, currently a scholar in the Department of Political Science at the Benue State University, Makurdi. Dr. Sabastian Agbinda is also with us on the program. And you can participate later at 10 o'clock by calling in on the number 0814-335-9292. The line which is available for calls once again is 0814-335-9292. In the meantime, the SMS line is activated, and that line is also available on WhatsApp. It is 0912-699-9404. The number once again is 0912-699-9404. Kindly remember to include your full name and the location where you are sending your message from. Log on to our website on www.iGateRadioTV.com, where the program is streaming. We're available on social media platforms, on Radio Garden, and of course you can download the iGate Radio and TV app from Google Play Store, which will avail you our platforms of the television, radio, as well as the newspaper to be part of what we are discussing. Now, Professor Gyoh, just before we start engaging with the listener anytime soon, 49 years since existence of the state. In your opinion, is Benue walking the right path as a federating unit of the country?
Well, as far as the condition in the country goes, Benue State is. But the whole problems in Benue State reflect the problems in the whole of Nigeria. But coming back to Benue State, there is no reason why it should, because one of the things that has practically spoiled the environment is politics. Politics has come in strongly in Benue State, and not only are the various ethnic groups in the state not working together, even among the team, the leaders are not united. And this, unfortunately, is very depressive of development. And the fight is quite intense. What everybody should remember is that if I am working for the people of Benue State, Dr. Agbinda is working for the people of Benue State, and we love the people, then I and Dr. Agbinda will cooperate and add our influence, our ideas together. There will be no need for me to quarrel with him. If he is working in a particular area, I won't go and fight with him for that. If I have anything, I will add. So the picture I get is that the politics, they wouldn't be fighting one another. And another very strong factor is that they are surrounded. And if to their men, if it is anything less than Agbinda doesn't want to get involved in all these insults and fighting with people, he will keep his peace. Even where he could have advised, he will keep his peace. Facebook has come at a very, very good time where anybody can talk to the public. But Facebook has also become a big, big problem. If somebody has a group of supporters, many of them are prepared to insult and abuse and disgrace anybody who they feel is not pulling their weight. Recently, there have been very, very insultive things in Facebook, and the people who control these discussion groups are not doing their job, because many of the things should be there. So a lot of people just keep their peace and avoid such public and disgraceful fighting.
How do we move away from this, using your benefits of your experience in the past and as an elder statesman that you are? How do we move away from maybe what you have termed bitter politics that have stagnated the development of the state?
The controls are already in place. Each discussion group has administrators who are supposed to read what comes in before allowing it to go on publication. But unfortunately, Facebook has become such a horrible thing.
Very toxic.
Oh, you have to hold your nose to participate because it's horrible. And the administrators of the discussion groups are either not doing their work or have joined in the messy idea of disgracing people on Facebook. So it is the administrators that need to tidy up what is published.
Okay, Dr. Agbinda, let me have your thoughts on what you make of the working of the state over this course of 49 years as a federating unit. Is it on the right path, would you say?
There is so much has been achieved, no question about that. So much has been achieved. That is not enough. When you look at a child, you say, look, you have done so well. But many times, the child that has done so well, most of the time, the teacher will also say, but you know, you could have done so much better. I think that for me, that is the type of description that ought to be put at Benue. So much has been achieved from that time in 1976, February 3rd, to now. Now, if you look at Benue's potentials at that time, in 49 years, you're approaching 50. You would say, well, you have a university, you have this fact,
76.
As the food basket of Nigeria persists. We should be talking of not just food basket, we should be talking of industrial basket of Nigeria. We haven't arrived there. We are very much like the educational hub in the north. We could easily be the educational hub in the whole country. We haven't arrived there. In that food basket, you don't have livestock. We don't produce livestock. That's why the Fulanis want to take this place and produce livestock. If we started producing livestock, we produce livestock better than any other part of Africa. So we don't qualify to be called a food basket. We are and we haven't changed that status from 76. That's a big minus. We don't even have the infrastructure to achieve that in the context of putting the Fulani in their plague, goat, and all that. We are the most revered state in the country, arguably. Fish is also food. The characterization is such that on the food basket graphics you have in the roundabout, there's no fish in it. But you are the most revered state in the country, arguably. The Benue River takes more water volume to Lokoja than the Niger. It comes here with Kasinala and Benue. They are all in the bowels of the state. And we are not into fishing. And we ought to be, because we have the resource. So you have the soil, you are not even utilizing it. In when Apiraku took over, it started the revolution around large-scale farming. We have not taken off from there. You need legislation. Every governor, we have been grappling with it. Some of us, I'm sorry to say, have made these legislative processes available to the governments we have served. I don't want to say more than that, but I'm saying that most of the approaches to development in the state has been adhocratic. There's no legislation pushing it. Even in the midst of legislation, take note that the Otom initiative around ranching, which Apiraku also started, but it didn't legislate on, was to position Benue in the area of livestock. It's knocking on our door. Apiraku started it and all that. Biragu fish and all that. Nobody has followed through. Has taken off from there. Adasu tried. Within 2 years, he couldn't do that much. So you are talking about both continuity and legislation. Legislation, embraces continuity, because if you don't want it, you have to. Even then, when Otom legislated, what we have now is they are trying to walk outside the legislation, pro-ranching legislation. There's a new ad hoc body. It's not established by law, pursuing that micro or sub-mandate within the agric, sector. So there is so much that can still be done, especially in that area of characterization of Benue, food basket. We are not food basket in any ramification, even in yams. If you are talking of maize, yam, guinea corn, millet, we import millet from Nasarawa and all that. So we are fighting catch up in some of the core areas in agriculture, and you need a revolution in your land use, approach or system.
Okay.
If I please, I would like to add.
Okay, feel free, sir.
One thing is all year farming, which we can do. We've got a big river. We've got big rivers and boreholes. No serious farming country depends on the weather. So we should think of all year farming. Second, mechanization of the method of farming. Up till now, it is hoe, and very few people are doing any mechanization. So there are simple handheld machines that you can use to achieve much more than what you can do with a hoe. And lastly, what I would like to add is farmers' cooperatives. The people are very poor. They should form cooperatives that when the time, for example, of fertilizer comes, they can join their hands together to raise some money to buy fertilizer and to divide among themselves, and lots of other things that they can cooperate.
Okay, now, Prof, I just wanted to have your thoughts on this, Prof. Having established all this, with the benefits of hindsight, what could have been done differently from the beginning that Dr. Agbinda pointed out?
Well, the problem has been, there is a saying that if petroleum is discovered in a country before democracy take roots, that country will never know democracy. Probably Saudi Arabia is the best example. Try to bring democracy to Saudi Arabia, you can't. In Nigeria, you see all these things that we are mentioning. If people felt that it is their farm products that will bring wealth to them, then everybody will be concentrating on farming, and we will get the things that we are saying. But the state, like all other states, now plans for cornering the federal allocation that comes from the sale of petroleum from the center. And so as soon as you have an election, they immediately begin to plan for the next one. They don't allow the government to even implement. During the 4 years, in the place of the 4 years, we should try to get the government to fulfill its promises to the people. Some politicians don't even bother. I'm sure that our present president, he used to refuse to go to any discussion. And right now, what every state is doing is preparing how best they can capture the central location to the state. So I think that is what has stopped us.
Okay, Dr. Agbinda, you want to add something? Can you do so briefly before we...
Prof talked about over politicking and the tensions that he made. There's more politicking than development, and it shouldn't be so. He also mentioned the challenges of abandoned projects arising from discontinuities. When you come over, start your own, ignore the past. And then he just mentioned, and we have discussed the idea of making promises and not. You just saw what Trump is doing. You may like him or not, But one area that you can't challenge him is everything that he said he would do, and he said a lot during the campaigns, he's doing. From the executive orders to some new pieces of legislation that is initiated, to the new, the exco he's trying to bring, comes from what he set out to do. He may be quarreling with Biden, but he won the election, having made he's doing it. Now, when Buhari took over, it was his second year that he brought a master plan for what he wanted to do. I don't want to mention the case of Benue, whether we're just convoking what you want to do for how many years to do Adasu from day one. I'm not going to quarrel with Aperaku. He started the university. Aperaku had mentioned university during his time, and he said, "Look, I'm not quarreling with that. When I come, I will start a university, and I'm not going to quarrel with Taka. With Taka political leadership. I will do minoritism. I won't quarrel with state-owned enterprises that started during Aperaku or before him. I will not abandon." There is a lot of abandonment across the country, but especially here in the state. And it comes out from the quality or the toxic environment around politicking. You come and now you begin to act as if there's no model before you. You're going to reinvent the wheel. There was no wheel before you. That is what Prof is alluding to, and I agree with him. Now, these issues can be resolved also by legislation. You can have a peace legislation that addresses this type of toxic succession environment that you have in the state, or about abandoning. When you come, try to incorporate what was initiated before you, so that when you leave, the other people too who take over from you can, because the tendency is, well, you didn't implement anything that another person initiated, but you didn't finish everything. So why should I touch your own when I take over from you? That's why there is a graveyard of so many very useful but abandoned projects on the altar of the rough, toxic politicking. It has only climbed onto your social media. It's already in the environment, even if you are not on social media.
All right, we'll take a short breather, and when we are back, we'll start engaging with you. Kindly stay with us. Welcome back from that short break, dear listener. Thank you for staying with us. If you are just tuning in, the program is Perspectives on Agate Radio. And today, Benue clocks 49. We are discussing the journey of the state over these 49 years, reflecting on the success stories and, of course, projecting into the future. Call in on the program on 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. Once you connect with us, we would like to know your full name and where you're calling from. Kindly keep your submission very brief. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much. My name is John Mark Studio Agbinda and Professor Shima. They are doing wonderfully, and they've spoken well, and they know everything about Benue, that Statesman. We've worked with these people before, and just to add to what they have said, imagine Benue at 49. We have a river. There is no water running in Makurdi, the state capital where this river is flowing. We talked about abandoned projects in the state. Suswan had built a greater Makurdi works through the assistance of the federal government. They needed to recirculate this water around the town, and each government that comes, they don't turn their eyes towards it. We are buying water in Makurdi at 49. And I'm not seeing any hope, even at 50, regulation of water within my Makurdi town. And it's worrisome. So government, the governments, they need to continue from projects that had been started by other administration. They did not abandon it. These are resources of the state. So they would have had the tomato industry working. I remember when Governor Suswan came in, he was on the radio program. I called in and I asked him about that project. At that time, Suswan said that the government needed just 100 million naira to complete the tomato industry. Till today, that tomato industry is not completed. And if you need to build a new one, it will cost more than 100 million just because of politics. Today, Benue would have had the yam factory in Zakibam. Today, Benue charcoal mills would have been which would have engaged a lot of youth, employed. Today, Benue would have moved forward. Infighting between our leaders is another problem. Why fight? Why fight ourselves? Today we have a Minister of Water Resources. If the governor is in good talking terms with the Minister of Water Resources, the regulation of water within Makurdi maybe would have been a project where they would have asked federal government for assistance, and then that would have been done. The fishing thing now was talking about would have been done.
John
So
Mark,
let there be unity.
Okay.
Let there be unity.
Very
Let our leaders come together. Let the traditional leaders, let our associations who lead these groups in the state come together and let's work together for Benue. We are angry. Benue youth are angry. We are angry. And one day,
John Mark, thank
the
you.
youth will rise up again.
No, thank you. You represent your opinion, not Benue youth. You are speaking for yourself in particular. So let it be your personal opinion, but it's not to stir up anger. Let's reflect on the journey of the state and see how we can project a good way.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. Thank you for joining us on Perspectives. The network is breaking at your end. You seem not to come out clearly.
Hello?
Yes, you are on. Speak to us. Oh, quite unfortunate. We will have to disconnect with you because your voice is not coming through, but the line is still available, 0814-335-9292. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives. Hello.
Good morning, Nathaniel.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, my name is Jonathan Ichawe.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. Where are you reaching us from?
I'm from Huduko Estate in North Bank, Makurdi.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I want first to greet Professor Shima Gyoh and Dr. Agbinda. They have done justice to the topic very well.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. I want to say that the governors that we have had after the military handed over have not really done justice to the needs of the state. They have already, the last person has already talked about abandoning projects that other governors started. That really is very bad. And your discussants also hammered on it. I don't know how much we can do to convince politicians that the government is a continuity. You come and then you must start your own project. And I'm sorry, I do not, in spite of the fact that everybody is praising the present governor for the flyover in high level and in Boku. I don't toe that line. Nobody had ever waited there for 5 minutes before passing. And the one in Gyoh is most laughable. But here we are, striding over a city, striding over a river. We don't have water. With all the waterborne diseases that we are suffering, that should be a priority to anybody who wants to help to do something for the masses. And not to talk about other towns, like the Maladu Waterworks for Boko, and the Otobi Waterworks for Tupo, and all those things. So I think they have brought a word, they call legacy project. I don't understand what is legacy project, that water cannot be a legacy project. Hello?
Yes, sir, you are on. Kindly conclude. The essence is when we talk like this, let's also advance the solutions. So from your end,
the solution is beautiful.
The solution,
yes.
The solution is first let the incoming governors concentrate on their own. Stop this thing of going back to criticize the previous governors and spend so much money in trying to catch them and give to EFCC. The other solution also is for our politicians, leaders, to unite. These things, both Agbinda and Dr. Gyoh had mentioned that. I don't know why it's so difficult for people to unite.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm a achiever. And I feel so pained that all these people are tea people.
Thank you,
we
sir.
are the majority in this state, and we are the ones following the state. This thing is, I think we ought to try the Zone C people next time around.
Thank you, sir.
Last year, Nathaniel, I'm also pained that on the national level, we chose a very expensive system of government.
Thank you, sir. For the national level, we'll discuss that another day. Thank you,
sir.
And
we also chose a very bad educational policy.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you for calling in. Let's stop at that. For today, we are discussing Benue. Maybe we'll dedicate a day to discuss the national level, the costs of governance. We appreciate your opinion for calling in on the program. Hello, good morning.
Good
morning.
Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning this morning, the
Thank
presenter, and morning to the speaker and the guest.
Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, you are on. Let's know your name. We do not have all the time. Just go straight to your name and where you are calling from.
Okay, Terry Gah from International Market Makurdi here.
All right, Terry.
Yes. Actually, I want to say happy birthday to Benue State.
Thank you.
But it's a 100% sure of the birthday compared to the one that individual used to celebrate. Benue State Benue State is doing wonderful, caring from the background of the people that were there when Benue State being created up to this movement, because the thing that the state headman started saying in terms of NEPA, there's improvement. In terms of street, there's improvement. In terms of everything, there's improvement. But where I'm being worried is Benue State is being blessed. Presently now, compared to the resources that our people are being holding, I think would have been greater than this. That is what we are expecting. Just like Mark was saying, like now, we are very privileged to have many people being in federal authority that can be dragged many things to benefit. So they should make sure that they should.
Terry Gah, we appreciate your contribution. We should keep politics. Anyway, politics itself drives development. Maybe we should embrace politics of development. I think that's the best way to put it. Hello, good morning. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives. Okay, you are on, but your voice is not coming through. 0814-335-9292. If you're not able to connect to the line, simply send us an SMS to 0912-699-9404. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome to Perspectives.
Yes, thank you so much. I am Bekula Haji. I'm calling you right away from Batia, Boko local government.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much. Greet the guests in the studio with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a nice program you brought in today on radio. You know, Benue at 49 is a welcome development. And what I want to tell the Benue people is that they're supposed to put politics aside. And government is a continuous process. Nobody plan bad before entering into government. Yes. Always if you contact the person or the governor on the seat, what is happening, they will tell you problem mostly. So complaining so much that this governor has done this, is not doing this, is wrong, I think. So I want to advise Benue people that everybody that won or is on the seat as a governor, don't something on ground. There's no way. Maybe you have done just in a gutter in your 8 years. If you are not done it, the gutter will remain like that. You tried. Let's not carry politics and be talking as if we are insulting the past governor. It's not good.
Okay.
So I appreciate you and the past governors and the guests in the studio with you.
Thank you
for bringing in a good topic of discussion today.
We appreciate you too. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate. When you lump in appreciating me with the past governors, maybe a future governor I should be, but I thank you. I've not been a governor anyway. Maybe for the program. Good morning and welcome to Perspective.
Yeah, good morning, my Benue.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Odelde calling.
Odelde, good to have you join us. Where are you reaching us from?
Calling Use Zone 4.
All right. Thank you, Ode. Go ahead.
Yes, my brother, the truth of the matter is that how far is Benue now?
Benue is 49, if you ask me how far. Yes. Hello, Ode. Hello, Ode.
Quite sure. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go on. We can hear you.
I am seeing hope for Benue State. I'm seeing future for Benue State. Irrespective of what we're going through right now, I am seeing the hope Benue is going to be better than what we used to. But there is my take home or my laying down some advice is that if we can be able to sit down together and say, how do we move the state forward? The resection of this state up to today, I am kicking against one principles of, politics that is playing in that state. Number one, we are playing politics of bitterness. And we are also playing politics of tribal. Tribal issue has been our also politics. Do you look at the comes of this state and thereabouts, like a woman who gave birth to a child and is being trained by just a child is being trained by one particular parent? What that kind of an attitude of that child, what will be the outcomes of the child? The children need the both two sides. Now, the politics of tribal issue now is that we have delegated to only a one speaking area to rule the state. It's not healthy. Look at other states, our neighboring state, Nasarawa State, Taraba State, Kogi State, Cross River State. Watch them. Let's see how they are ruling their government. Let's see how they are doing their business. See the lot of development that is going on. But in our state, we have state-centric, Zone A to Zone B. Zone A to Zone B. We are the minority. We must sit on top. Tell me, how will they progress? If we can work on that matter, I think we can move better than where we find ourselves right now. Let's sit and ask ourselves a question. Do you know that today we have generated a lot of bitterness within our mind? That when we find ourselves, we will ask the first question, you are from which tribe? You are from the tribe, say, no, I need this tribe here. I need this tribe here. When do we come out and say, please remain one? When do we now come to ask ourselves and say, come, this seat must not be occupied and be terrorized by one particular region of people?
All right.
If we come out of this matter, then I'm telling you, the development of this state will come.
Okay.
I wish my state 49 years, but we have not lost the hope. There is still future for us tomorrow. But let's come to the truth and let's tell ourselves the truth to the face. We need to shift our politics goalposts. Let's see how we can be able to bring some level of highly level of technocrats of ideas that will bring a rapid development to ours.
Thank you. Thank you, Odode. We appreciate you. Thank you very much for calling in and your submission. Okay, we should shift the goalpost, politics of development, with a sounding topic emerging from almost all the submission. Hello, good morning, and welcome to Perspectives.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
All right, my name is Mike Oguche. I'm calling you right now. I'm around the state secretariat, between the state secretariat and IBB Square. That's to be specific in terms of my location.
Thank you, Mike. Go ahead.
All right, fine. I come from a different perspective. I, like the second to the last speaker spoke, and the admonition he got is to provide some sort of solution. So I am from the perspective of hope. I think there's hope in the horizon, even despite all the despair that have been spilled by the elder statesmen that are there. From the position of knowledge in this present government, I'm aware that all the moribund projects that they mentioned, is it Taraku vegetable mill, external investors have been on site there. They've looked at it and they're working on coming to bring it back on stream within the shortest possible time. I'm also aware that the Otupo-born bricks, they were there, and they are even going to innovate it. They're not doing bricks, they're going to be doing roof tiles, world-class roof tiles from there. That is hope. I'm also aware there were the Otobi Water Works, and the reticulation and revamping of that is also in the plates and in the works. The tomato paste factory they talked about too, this set of investors, very ambitious, were also there. So they went around all of these moribund projects, and that is what inspires hope. And that's the hope I'm sharing with every passionate Benue person that has spoken this morning, especially the youth that called with lots of despair.
Mike Oguche, from you said from an informed perspective, are you as a citizen, or you are speaking as one who is in government with this rest? Because all these places you have read out, well, some are not in public domain. So maybe the informed perspective you have of it, so we can share in your hope and excitement for Benue citizens.
All right. No. Well, let me start from this. You know, the current government has created some very innovative new agencies. I speak as one of in the public sector before, so our private sector experience is what's attracting all of this. I'm saying, and the hope that I am resonating this morning. I speak on behalf of, and I'm carrying flowers and flags for every other person that's in any of these other innovative agencies that they are too numerous for me to mention. So when they move together, I'm very, very sure they are going to
develop. So if what you have said is true, then we should watch out for it and hope that it brings some form of inspiration to our leaders to act. Hello, good.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Nathaniel Nongu.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I want to greet your guests in the studio.
Thank you.
You've spoken very, very well. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, you are on. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. This is Vincent Ako. I'm calling from Ishabaku Road.
All right.
Thank you very much. I want to congratulate Benue for clocking 49 years. I also want to thank my brother Udi, who just spoke a few minutes back. You see, earlier on, your guest in the studio made mention of something. He said initially Benue State was together, that it was General Muhammadu Buhari that brought about tribalism by appointing indigenes to go and be governing their own. I want to make it clear here that, though I'm not speaking for him, but I want to ask, what did Agi Ironsi, the first person that took over abroad? And then secondly, I want to say, talking about infrastructure and in terms of development, Benue State is really, really developing. We are not talking about water, and so whoever is saying that producing water alone, constructing bridges alone is not important. I think that person should have a rethink and then something like that. Because although the person is entitled to his or her own opinion, just the way I am also entitled to my own opinion. But I must give the present governor kudos for doing a very good job. Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
But I want you just to answer that question. Is it Aguiyi Ironsi that brought tribalism or Muhammadu Buhari? Thank you very much, because I'm also I also read politics and I know what they are talking about.
Thank you, Vincent Akko. We appreciate you. I think, anyway, that question is really not too important in the context of our discussion, because we are really not discussing Aguiyi Ironsi, but maybe when we're back to touch on it briefly. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nathaniel Nongu.
Thank you for joining us on the program.
Yes, my name is Solomon Peke from Uday in Goma local government.
All right, Solomon. How is Uday this morning?
No, we are fine.
All right.
Cool.
Go ahead.
If you are congratulating Benue at 49 years, you are also congratulating Mr. Solomon Peke. We are born of the same year.
Okay, congratulations to Solomon too. Is
yes.
Solomon 49 as well? No.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so speak on
76 January.
Speak on Benue.
So Benue State is not giving us what we're supposed to see at 49 years compared to her mates at the national level. So, but what we are trying to look at it there is that we talk about who give water drinks life. So we're supposed to have access water. When I was a youth, I see water around Makurdi town. At that time, pipe was connected like other electricity pole lines. But it's not longer there. All those, I don't know whether they want to privatize water board. So when water will come back to life in Benue, I hope it will add to what we are seeing of a road. I also cry of road seriously, because when my mother was seriously sick in Uday, taking her out of the bad road where we can go to Makurdi. In fact, we suffered a lot. I also cry of road. So I want to say Benue don't have road. When we have road and water, electricity is the third something we're supposed to be looking at.
All right.
So I beg you, Mr. Nongu, as a seasonal journalist, please forward my report to Governor Alea so that we can have road. Uday is 100 years plus now as a parishioner. I'm not talking of old by age of Uday. We're talking about Uday parish at 100 years plus. So I beg you, Mr. Nongo, forward my report to Governor Alea so that we can have road to Nasme today.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Solomon. We appreciate you. Thank you for calling in. I believe Governor Alea should be listening too. If he's not listening, his people in government are listening, so they will forward the report to him. My job is just to do what I'm doing here. Thank you very much for calling in, Solomon. Let's take some messages before we come back. This one says, good morning, presenter with your erudite guests. I just want to thank you and your guests for this deep information and knowledge freely shared. Indeed, information is power, and I was in a good class today. Thank you, Joe Kennedy from Makurdi. All right, Joe Kennedy, thank you very much for your message. We feel good that you're in a class. Stay in the class till the ending. This one says, good day, the presenter and guests in the studio. Let me first congratulate Benue citizens and their leaders at 49. Secondly, I believe every chosen leader has performed very well according to his capacity for Benue citizens to feel the impact of his governance. West still is our abandoned projects are waiting for completion, such as the Greater Water Works, ADC, Wanone tomato juice, and so on. Lastly, Benue, as one of the oldest states, needs to be developed collectively by our leaders, irrespective of religion, politics, and tribe. Nyajo Godwin from Bajimba. Nyajo, we appreciate you for sending your message in. Thanks for your contribution. And this one says, this is from our WhatsApp box. This one says, good morning to you and the guests. The creation of states in Nigeria by the military regime was a significant part of the country's political history, aimed at addressing ethnic, political, and regional tensions. This process began after independence in 1960. In 1960, as Nigeria inherited a federal structure dominated by a large three regions, northern, western, and eastern, that often struggled for political and economic power. Military interventions and governance played a critical role in reshaping Nigeria's federal structure. The message is too long, but the summary of it is that we here in Benue, in terms of development, it's not a work, it's a working process. Someday we'll be there. Happy birthday to our dear state. This an abridged version of the message from Co-Frame in Makurdi Welfare Quarters. Co-Frame, we thank you for sending your message. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Nathaniel Nongu.
Morning.
Your guest, eh?
Welcome to Perspectives.
Yes, I am Engineer Sunday Asankali from Makurdi.
All right, good to have you, Sunday.
I really appreciate the program and appreciate your guests there. That does justice to the patient, I think. And then what I want to address, or the successful government to address, is that very principle or the basis for which Benue State was fought for, so they to take care of the plight or the minority. I want successful government to Benue State not to jettison that idea. We must ensure that the plight of the minority is taken care of. So we should ensure equity in everything we do. In the appointment, in distribution of projects, so there be equitable distribution throughout the state, so that there will be unity, just like your guests say. Otherwise, it won't be good when some people are thinking that they are shortchanged. Then the very essence for which Benue State was sought for, and it was God, be defeated. We are still here, just for you to make everything equitable, appointments equitable, the zero project equitable, and everything. Even with that, even if the government is not really rotated, if one person is at the seat and there's equitable appointments, equitable the zero project, that's what we want. Let there be development, even development everywhere, every part of the state.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, Sunday. A few more messages and we'll come back. Good morning, guests in the house. My name is Augustine Abba, texting from BSU. Starting new project in every new government shows lack of transition and continuity in our government, and this has cost us more than is expected because the resources put in the project by past government, instead of continuing from there, are thrown away, and new budget and resources are then put together for the same project. This is not a good way for growth of any state or government, because continuity reduces the cost to spend. All right, thank you very much, Augustine, for your message. This one says, it is my heartfelt that Benue at 49 should be good in stewardship. Isaac Utua from Sejime in Goma. Isaac, we appreciate your message. Good morning. Welcome to Perspective.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Nathaniel.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm calling you from behind Correctional Center yourself.
The name is who?
Magdalene, remember.
Okay, Magdalene. Welcome.
Thank you. Now, Benue at 49 is a great thing. We thank God for this opportunity. And also, I want to suggest that at 50, we shouldn't be talking about farmer header classes in Benue State, because we've had this for a very long time now, and we are old enough now to do something, to have a lasting solution to this problem. Like, we know our border states, how we should have our security men guiding us from wherever these people come in from, like from Nasarawa, Kogi, Taraba, and all these regions. And also, you know that we are the food basket of the nation, and for us to keep that, we need serious security in our state, so that our people can produce. And most importantly, after the production, the roads are no longer there. Since we don't have the roads to move this farm produce from our villages, like I'm talking from Masisumbalom, where we produce a lot of yams, cassava, and all that. There is just no road, so that it's very difficult for us to now move our farm produce from the villages to the state capital, or to the nearby markets, so that this farm produce can be sold. So these are the few things I'm suggesting, that we should look at in the coming 50 years of Benue State so that we move our state forward and then we keep that name food basket of the nation.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mark. We appreciate your submission. One more message and we'll come back. Good morning, the presenter and guests in the studio. Let me first congratulate Benue. Okay, we took that earlier. This one is a different one. Good morning, presenter and guests in the studio. My take on this topic is simple. A man at 49 is not a child, and if it took states it took states in more advanced countries over 100 years to get to where they are today, I believe Benue State still has time. And the truth is that we have more resources at our disposal now. So let our political leaders take advantage of these resources, construct factories, prioritize infrastructure, mechanize agriculture, and embrace technology for the effective growth of the state. Thank you. Manasseh Oja from Welfare Quarters. Manasseh, thank you for Prof. Let me begin with you. You have listened to the callers, and one prominent thing that resounded in their submissions is politics of bitterness and lack of continuity. Some argue that Benue has had no development agenda since its creation. Do you subscribe to this school of thought and listening to the calls?
Well, that's the impression that one has. But it may well be that the inability of subsequent governments to cooperate with their with the previous government, they may indeed have an agenda for development, but that agenda is not being carried forward because each government comes and does its thing, and when the next one comes, it is trying to persuade everybody that the previous government was terrible and that they are the solution. So that may be the reason why we feel, I mean, if somebody says that there's no development agenda, one feels that maybe it's correct. The other thing is that there is something called budget, which every government goes preparing. A budget, in other words, is a plan. You plan how you are going to run the government next year, and a budget ties you down. The money that is coming to you is tied down to developmental projects. The ones there is, of course, money for payment of salaries and so on that should not be touched. Then there is money for developmental projects which should carry on from one government to the other. But the impression I get is that people sit down and do a budget and then throw it out of the window. And they go around donating money here, doing this here, declaring this here. It doesn't give the impression that anybody is carrying out a budget. And that means lack of planning, and that's dangerous.
Dr. Agbinda, let me have your thoughts on this argument that there's no development agenda for the state since its creation, and tied to the reactions of the callers.
Aproko had a development agenda in almost all the sectors, and it was developmental. If you look at the industrial plan, it was there. At that time, the industrial plan for the state, the water plan, the electricity plan, all of them were there. They were built around the public sector. So they were tied to strict compliance with budgets. They were also tied to borrowing. So you had deficit budgets, you needed to borrow. The Lazar brothers, he went abroad and got money through the Lazar brothers, who were consultants for your hotel, for the electricity project, for the water project, for Taraku. There was supposed to be a rice mill in Gyoh. It was eventually they moved their locations for the rice mill into the refinery for Taraku. So there was a development plan that was both industrial. We mentioned earlier that he had a plan for large-scale mechanized farming, was built around the public sector. So budgets were critical. Now, this country and the world is awash with money now. The states are not supposed to, prioritize projects in the context in which Aperaku did, in the context of the public sector, initiating factories. We now have a very vibrant private sector in the state, which is something that you need to celebrate. From 76 to now, there is a huge economic elite that is not being supported. You don't create, throughout discussions here, and from some of your comments, nobody has mentioned unemployment. It's a critical factor in the development matrix of the state. Nobody, of course, we have mentioned abandoned projects. The challenge of unemployment during Aperaku is different from what you have now, because then the state was doing taboo it and enable them, support them to initiate these projects. The issue is the price of cement now. That's who started the cement factory in Bachar. It has been abandoned. There are so many abandoned projects that you can now position the private sector about, can now be devoted to the social sector, infrastructure and the various ramifications, water provision, enablement of the private sector. And you don't enable the private sector through ad hoc bodies. You have to legislate. If you want to partner with the private sector, there must be legislation. You don't do it with agencies that don't have the backing of law. The agencies are not supposed to operate as executive order. They're supposed to come on the back of legislation. When they are there, even you understand that even when you have legislation, there is a temptation for new governments to attempt to abandon it. The autumn legislation took off from the crisis, the header farmer crisis. It also took off from Aperaku's Kyogen livestock plan and all that. Now he legislated, emphasizing mandate for ranching. Now you can continue from there. You don't need to reinvent the wheel in that regard again. And then the funding is there. You can get the monies to implement that mandate easier. The problem we have here is that when people are about to come into governance, what do they commit themselves to do? How do they follow through with it? They come with agenda. The one agenda most of them come with is to build a personal house. They do that quickly, within months. They are building houses here and there in Abuja and all that. Most of the time they are not clear on the altruism around their budgets. What did you say you would do? We're talking about the bridge in high level. Wasn't in Alia's plan. Of course, Otum didn't have your anti-open grazing legislation too. But then when he came, he realized that you needed it, and there was a law around it. The people said, we want law, don't do advocacy. So what you want to do ought to have been debated. We don't have an environment in which the candidates who want to take over the state during election, through electoral processes, they just come up with plans that they know they will not follow.
All right.
They have agendas, the personal agendas they follow. Whatever they wrote for public, they throw away and do what they want, which is not developmental.
Okay, now, Prof, to what extent have the public institutions in Benue been properly positioned over time to add value to service delivery for the overall well-being of Benue citizens over these 49 years? Just a reflection.
Well, there's been quite a commendable effort to make the public institutions effective, but the effort needs to be to greatly improve. You can think education. We have got the university and some more colleges are coming to college. These need to be properly supported. If I may just divert a little bit,
yes.
In that what is spoiling us is that people, the heads of government should realize that the people are going to judge them and accept them according to performance of doing these things that we are mentioning. But unfortunately, the Pocho fraternity, as soon as a governor comes in, they begin to talk about you will do your 8 years. They will start planning, encouraging the governor to think that he has already got support for the next election. The whole point is that if you elect a governor, be critical of what he or she is doing. Give advice and make that person realize that his or her chances for the next election will depend on performance. But unfortunately, as soon as you get there, the Pocho fraternity will tell you, they will start planning for you, telling you to go in for the second term. This is most unfortunate.
Even if you are not performing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think scholars like to write things so much. So this Pocho fraternity you have coined here, Dr. Agbinda may think of a journal article on Pocho fraternity in Benue.
Afterwards, and I will consult Prof. You will give me the framework. You give me guidance on
with all pleasure. With all pleasure. The
Pocho fraternity or
Pocho fraternity is a very strong influence in the country and in Benue State.
All right. Now, just because we do not have time anymore, just speak briefly. You were Commissioner for Health in the past, and you, of course, a medical scholar that you are in the health sector, for instance. What gains can we point to, and what are the shortcomings that we need to address for the health of Benue citizens?
Well, at our time, and internationally, primary health care has always been elevated to one of the priorities. But when it comes to implementation, it is ignored and in fact walked over. People think that building teaching hospitals and specialist hospitals they should be their targets. Primary health care goes to look at the foundation. There are village and the town activities, so that the poorest person doesn't have to go far, doesn't have to have a lot of money to start looking after their health. And to me, if I had more time, I would indeed say the things that we can do, starting with almost very little money. The people run a primary health care themselves, so that is deficient. Secondary health care, which consists of hospitals all over the state, unfortunately, they are not being properly funded. And they have a lot of deficiencies in power, in communications, and in implementation of health projects. And of course, the tertiary health care is a teaching hospital, which should also look after the population at the highest level, and people should go to other places and out of the country only after they have been thoroughly helped within the country, and only for things which cannot be locally solved. So as far as health is concerned, it is just struggling among the other things. But I think that health and education and health, I don't know which one to put first, because educated people will look after their health better. If you are not educated, you are just receiving, and you do nothing to help yourself. But once you are educated, you can do a lot to help yourself. I deliberately said education first, yes.
Okay, so you had your mind primed on education already.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
And
that's fine.
That's how it is.
Yeah, we really do not have time anymore, but Dr. Agbinda, I will just give you 30 seconds to speak to us on how the best way we can address the insecurity challenge the state has been facing over years. You mentioned the legislation on prohibition of open grazing in Benue State.
If we are looking at insecurity in the context of either farmer crisis, you must prioritize the development of livestock in the state. So it's back to your autumn legislation around, homegrown livestock. That's the only way to knock the Fulani out in whatever guise they want to come into the state. The other matter is about job creation. When you prioritize job creation, You must go into education, like Prof mentioned. You have to educate people, and then and all that. If you don't prioritize job creation, you are educating people for unemployment, and job creation is no longer something you pursue. It's not a project that you pursue through government-owned enterprises again. You design legislations that enable the private sector to create jobs. I don't need to be too specific on this, but when Apiraku was creating, building Taraku and all that, that era is gone. The private sector in the state hadn't developed that much. Funds were not easily available. We have funds. Apiraku started Lobby Bank in response to that, to enable the private sector over time. So the new governments like you have now and in the past 20 years have not prioritized employment generation in the state.
All
and
right.
the employment generation is not a joke.
Apologies,
you
please.
need to think through with it. And it's not public sector based.
Yes, we'll have to go. But Prof, just 10 seconds. Where do you envisage the state to be in the next decade? Or at 50, what should be the major thing we should be proud of when we turn 50 next year? This should be your concluding word, sir.
The major thing should be industrialization. Industrialized farming, industrialized production of the things we need. If we wait for the federal government, we will wait forever, because there are so many state governments waiting for industrialization.
Okay, Agbinda? Also,
that is it.
You
joined said it.
Industrialization.
That is what I was saying. Private sector based industrialization, not public sector based industrialization. The federal government is not setting up new factories here. The state government shouldn't delude it so that it will set up. Should enable the private sector to do it. It's cheaper.
And learning from the Chinese,
yes,
I agree with you.
Yes,
both public and industrial efforts joined together. That's how China was able to elevate the very most poor people out of poverty.
All right. We wish you had more time.
The state enables, the private sector executes.
We wish we had more time, but we'll have to end at this point. Professor Shima Gyoh, OFR, is a pioneer commissioner for information and later commissioner for health in Benue State, a one-time permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Health, one-time chairman of Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. I appreciate you very much indeed, sir, for Department of Political Science at the Benue State. You also served speakers at the National Assembly. We appreciate you, sir, for your valuable insights on the program.
Thank you so much. You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you. Dear listener, that's our program today. Benue is 49. Next time we'll be here, we should be discussing Benue at 50 Golden Jubilee. We wish Benue the very best and our leaders the vision to steer the state aright. Have yourself a great week ahead. I am Nathaniel. Goodbye.